In this problem, the graph of the polynomial f of x is shown on the right. So here is the graph of my polynomial. The graph is complete and shows the function's end behavior. So looking at the end behavior of the function, if you notice, both ends point down. And if both ends point in the same direction, it says that the degree of the polynomial has to be even. So the degree is even. And since both ends point down, that says the leading coefficient has to be a negative number. Now we need to look at the zeros. We're told all zeros are integers. Then we have to list all the zeros along with their multiplicities, and then write the equation of f of x in factored form. Use a leading coefficient of 1 or negative 1 and make the degree of f of x as small as possible. In these problems, I often find it's helpful to put all my information in a chart. So here's my chart, and I need to start finding the zeros from my graph. Here is my first zero. Its x value is -3. And what is the behavior of the graph at this zero? Does it cross or touch and turn around? It touches and turns around. So I'm going to abbreviate that with just touches. And if it touches and turns around, what does that say about the multiplicity? It must be an even number. And it could be 2, 4, 6, 8, but notice we were asked to make the degree of f of x as small as possible. So I have to use the multiplicity of 2. And what factor goes with this 0? Notice if we take x equals -3 and I want to get 0 on the right, I have to add 3 to both sides. So I get x plus 3 equals 0. So the factor that goes with this 0 is x plus 3. Notice the sign on the factor is the opposite of the sign on the 0. So my factor is x plus 3, but what exponent do I have to raise it to? It has a multiplicity of 2, so my factor has to be x plus 3 all squared. Now let's go to the next 0, which is right here. So x equals 1. What is the behavior at x equals 1? It crosses the x-axis. That means the multiplicity is odd. And since we're picking the multiplicities to be as small as possible, my multiplicity would be 1. What factor goes with x equals 1? It's going to be x minus 1. And since the multiplicity is 1, we don't need to write the multiplicity as a 1 is implied. Now let's move on to the next 0. That is when x equals 4. The graph again crosses the x-axis at this 0. The multiplicity is odd. I'm going to use 1 because I have to pick the smallest possible. And what is my factor? It is going to be x minus 4 to the first power, or just x minus 4. So now I've listed the zeros. I have their multiplicity. It says to use a leading coefficient of 1 or -1. I know it has to be negative, so my leading coefficient has to be -1. So my function f of x equals -1, or just, we never write the 1, we just write negative, the quantity x plus 3 all squared times the quantity x minus 1 times the quantity x minus 4. So there is the equation of my polynomial where I'm making the degree as small as possible.